The 42nd floor hallway was silent, except for the faint hum of fluorescent lights above. Aaron Whitfield pushed his cleaning cart forward, its wheels squeaking in protest. His hands were dry and sore from scrubbing tile, and the faint chemical scent of disinfectant clung to his sleeves. It was well past midnight, and exhaustion pressed against him like a heavy coat. But stopping was not an option. His 8-year-old daughter, Clara, needed a new heart medication that the insurance company had refused to cover. Then came the sound. Soft, uneven sobs, hidden behind the closed door of a supply closet. Aaron froze. Something in that trembling voice told him the woman inside was not fine. He could never have guessed that choosing to knock on that door would set in motion events that would change both their lives forever. Welcome to today's story, a journey filled with emotions, unexpected turns, and lessons worth keeping. If you enjoy stories that touch the heart and make you think, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Now, let us begin. Aaron Whitfield never imagined life could unravel so quickly. 2 years earlier, his days were filled with the predictable rhythm of office meetings, project deadlines, and the warm presence of his wife, Adrienne, who always greeted him at the door. They lived in a modest but cheerful apartment in Chicago, their daughter Clara's drawings taped to every wall. Weekends were for pancakes in the kitchen and trips to the park, where Clara chased pigeons and laughed until her cheeks turned pink. Then, one rainy evening, everything changed. A drunk driver sped through a red light and slammed into Adrienne's car as she drove home from work. The other driver walked away with only scratches. Adrienne never made it out of the emergency room. The sound of the doctor's voice delivering the news still echoed in Aaron's memory, heavy and final, like the closing of a door that would never open again. In the months that followed, grief became a shadow that clung to every corner of their home. Clara, only 6 at the time, stopped playing with her dolls and began waking from nightmares. Her pre-existing heart condition, already fragile, worsened under the weight of her sorrow. The doctors prescribed a new medication, Heart Sure, that promised to give her energy and strength. But the cost was staggering, more than Aaron earned in 2 weeks. He filed a claim with their insurance company, only to receive a cold printed letter stating the medicine was experimental and not covered. The rejection letter, with its bland corporate language, felt almost cruel. Bills piled up. Aaron missed more work to care for Clara, and within 3 months, his manager called him into the office. There were no angry words, just a tight smile and a severance packet. Losing that job felt like losing a second anchor. By the time winter came, Aaron had taken the only work he could find, cleaning offices at night in one of the city's tallest glass towers, Brooks and Hale Industries. The pay was barely enough to keep their small apartment, but the night shift meant Mrs. Green, their elderly neighbor, could watch Clara for free. Mrs. Green was kind, leaving notes about Clara's homework progress and little cookies in a tin on the kitchen counter. Still, each morning when Aaron came home, he saw the same worrying signs. Clara, too tired to eat breakfast, her skin pale against the soft blue of her pajamas, her eyes shadowed. Every time she said, "It is okay, Daddy," it cut deeper. He knew it was not okay. On this particular night, Chicago's streets below were slick from a light drizzle, reflecting the city's neon lights in fractured patterns. The hum of the HVAC system filled the empty hallways as Aaron pushed his cart toward the supply closet on the 42nd floor. His arms ached from lifting bags of shredded paper, and the faint tang of ammonia hung in the air. He was almost done. Just one more floor. The thought of getting home to check on Clara was the only thing pushing him forward. Then he heard it. Faint, muffled crying. At first, he thought it was the building's pipes groaning, But as he drew closer to the closet, the sound became unmistakable. A woman's voice, quiet but breaking, as though she was trying not to be heard. Aaron stopped, the rubber wheels of his cart squeaking in protest. His first instinct was to turn away. This was not his business. But something in the sound, a kind of deep personal pain, reminded him of his own nights spent staring at the ceiling, holding back tears so Clara would not hear. He knocked gently on the door. Aaron. Hello? Is someone in there? The crying stopped instantly. Silence filled the hallway. Aaron. I am Aaron, the night cleaner. Do you need help? A long pause, then a firm voice. Voice. I am fine. Please go away. Aaron stood there, torn. He could leave, pretend this never happened, but instead, he slid down the wall and sat on the cool tile outside the closet. He began to talk, his voice low. He told her about Clara, about the day she gave her favorite stuffed bear to a little boy at the hospital who was scared of his procedure. He spoke of her stubborn bravery, the way she faced her illness without asking for pity. From inside, the woman's voice softened. Voice. The hospital? Aaron explained about Clara's heart condition, the costly medicine, and how hard it had been to keep her healthy since Adrian's death. Halfway through, he caught himself. Why was he telling this to a stranger? There was the sound of a latch turning. The door opened a few inches, revealing a tall woman in an expensive navy suit. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes red from crying, but her posture carried an undeniable presence. She extended a hand. Voice. I am Evelyn Brooks. Aaron froze. Evelyn Brooks was the CEO of Brooks & Hale Industries, the very company whose offices he had been cleaning. He had seen her face in business magazines and on news interviews, always poised, confident, untouchable. Aaron started to apologize, but she shook her head. She told him he was the first person in a long time who had spoken to her without expecting something in return. They both sat on the floor, an unlikely pair, the janitor and the CEO. Evelyn spoke of losing her daughter, Rose, to cancer 3 years earlier. The pain was still fresh, hidden under layers of work and public image. Aaron listened quietly, understanding the weight of loss in a way words could not express. Halfway through, he noticed a piece of paper peeking from Evelyn's leather planner. A child's drawing of butterflies in bright crayon. It was a detail he would remember later, though he did not yet know its significance. And in that moment, neither could guess that this unexpected encounter, in the quiet of a nearly empty skyscraper, would be the start of something that would transform both their lives. The next morning, a pale winter light filtered through the kitchen blinds. Aaron stood at the stove, stirring oatmeal, the faint scent of cinnamon in the air. Clara sat at the table, chin resting in her hand, listlessly poking at a piece of toast. She had been unusually quiet all morning. His phone buzzed. The screen lit up with an unfamiliar number. Aaron. Hello? Evelyn's voice came through, calm but direct. Evelyn. Can you meet me at Children's Memorial Hospital in 1 hour? Bring Clara. Aaron's brow furrowed. Aaron. Is something wrong? Evelyn. No, but it is important. There was something in her tone, steady, almost determined, that told him not to argue. An hour later, they stepped into the hospital's lobby. The familiar antiseptic smell and the low hum of voices surrounded them. Aaron spotted Evelyn near the reception desk. She was wearing jeans, a cream sweater, and no makeup, looking younger and far less intimidating than the magazine covers portrayed. When she saw Clara, her face softened. She knelt so they were eye to eye. Evelyn. You must be Clara. I have heard you are very brave. Clara glanced up at Aaron, then back at Evelyn. Clara. Daddy says you are very important. A A faint smile curved Evelyn's lips. Evelyn. Not as important as you. Dr. Patel, Clara's cardiologist, approached with a wide smile. He shook Aaron's hand firmly, then turned to Clara. Dr. Patel. I have some wonderful news for you. We have a full year's supply of Heartsure for you, completely free. Aaron's mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked at Evelyn in disbelief. Evelyn explained that her company had long-standing ties with the pharmaceutical firm producing the drug. After hearing Clara's story, she contacted the CEO directly and arranged for the donation. But she was not done. She turned to Aaron and said she was launching the Rose Clara Foundation, named for her late daughter and his living one, to help families across the country pay for life-saving medication when insurance refused. Aaron felt a wave of gratitude unlike anything he had experienced, but Evelyn only shook her head. Evelyn, you saved me that night in the closet. I just listened to you, and it reminded me what matters. Over the next several weeks, Evelyn became a constant in their lives. She would arrive after work with takeout, the aroma of Thai curry or roasted chicken filling their small apartment. Clara quickly grew comfortable with her, showing her art projects and telling stories about school. Evelyn helped with homework, read bedtime stories, and even taught Clara how to bake sugar cookies one snowy Saturday afternoon. The change in Clara was remarkable. Her cheeks flushed with color, her energy returning. She laughed more, asked more questions, and began talking again about her dream of becoming a doctor. But in quiet moments, Aaron's mind drifted to the question he did not dare voice. Was this bond permanent, or just a temporary surge of compassion from someone used to high-intensity projects? One crisp Sunday afternoon, Evelyn invited Aaron for a walk in Lincoln Park. The trees were shedding their last golden leaves, crunching underfoot. The air smelled faintly of wood smoke from nearby townhouses. She was uncharacteristically quiet until they reached a bench overlooking the pond. Evelyn, I want you to work for me as my executive assistant. Aaron blinked, taken aback. Aaron, because you feel sorry for me? Evelyn shook her head firmly. Evelyn, no, because I trust you. You have the ability to speak truth without an agenda. That is rare, and I need it. Aaron sat back, processing her words. The idea of working in her world, the fast-moving corporate sphere, felt daunting. But there was also a flicker of pride, the sense that someone saw value in him beyond his current job. Over the next week, he accepted the position. His first day in the towering office suite felt surreal. The soft carpet underfoot, the scent of fresh coffee from the executive lounge, the view of the Chicago River stretching toward the horizon. He traded his janitor's cart for a desk, a company laptop, and a stack of meeting agendas. But with this new role came challenges. Aaron had to navigate board schedules, high-stakes negotiations, and the constant hum of corporate urgency. At home, Clara noticed he came home later and sometimes carried work in his head, even at the dinner table. Evelyn reassured them both that the adjustment would pass. Meanwhile, the Rose Clara Foundation moved from idea to reality. Evelyn and Aaron spent long hours meeting with hospital administrators, discussing how to identify families in need. Donors began stepping forward, moved by the foundation's mission. In less than 3 months, the first families received full coverage for their children's medications. One evening, Aaron arrived at Evelyn's office to find her standing by the window, the city lights reflected in the glass. The office was dim, except for the soft glow of a desk lamp. The air carried the faint scent of rain from a cracked open window. Evelyn. Tomorrow would have been Rose's 9th birthday. Aaron's chest tightened. He understood the weight of those anniversaries. He mentioned Clara's curiosity about Rose's love for butterflies. Evelyn smiled faintly, her eyes glistening. Evelyn. They were her favorite. She drew them everywhere. That is why I keep that picture in my planner. Aaron suggested they honor Rose the next day. The following afternoon, under a pale blue sky, they released butterfly-shaped balloons in the park. Clara handed Evelyn a pink one and said it was for Rose to find in heaven. Evelyn held it tightly before letting it drift upward, her gaze following it until it vanished into the sunlight. The moment was quiet, simple, and it carved a permanent place in Aaron's memory. Still, neither of them knew that a larger challenge was waiting, one that would test just how much they had grown since that night in the supply closet. Aaron's new role as Evelyn's executive assistant transformed his days. Instead of empty hallways and the whir of vacuum cleaners, he now navigated bustling conference rooms, urgent phone calls, and meetings with people whose suits cost more than a month of his old rent. The office had the faint scent of polished wood and fresh coffee each morning, and his desk overlooked the river, where tugboats pushed long barges through the slow current. His responsibilities were varied: scheduling high-level meetings, preparing Evelyn's briefing documents, and sometimes serving as the quiet observer in negotiations where millions of dollars were on the table. Though the work was intense, it carried a sense of purpose. He was no longer invisible. Still, the adjustment came with challenges. Some executives regarded him with thinly veiled skepticism, whispering about the janitor in the corner office. Aaron ignored them, focusing on the work and on the steady, grounded presence Evelyn offered when the corporate pace became overwhelming. The Rose Clara Foundation, meanwhile, was growing faster than either of them had expected. Within 6 months, it had helped hundreds of families. Aaron often accompanied Evelyn to hospitals, where the smell of antiseptic mingled with the hum of medical equipment. The gratitude in parents' eyes reminded him of the day Dr. Patel delivered the news about Clara's medicine. Then came the crisis. One gray February morning, Evelyn arrived at the office earlier than usual. Aaron noticed her expression. Jaw tight, eyes shadowed. She closed her office door behind them. Evelyn. The pharmaceutical partner just got acquired by a larger company. They are reviewing all charity commitments, including our supply for Clara and the other children. The words hit Aaron like ice water. Aaron. So they could cut the program entirely? Evelyn nodded. Evelyn. Yes, and if they do, dozens of children could lose access to their medication. She began making calls, her voice firm but controlled. Days blurred together. Evelyn spoke with lawyers, executives, and anyone with influence over the deal. The stress was visible. Faint lines etched deeper into her face, and she drank coffee late into the night, her office smelling faintly of roasted beans and paper warmed by the desk lamp. Aaron worried about her. He saw in her the same driven intensity that had once hidden her grief. One evening, after another long day of failed negotiations, he found her sitting in the darkened conference room, staring at the city lights. Aaron. You are carrying too much alone. Evelyn. I will not let Clara or any child lose what they need. Her voice carried the steel of someone who had decided failure was not an option. On the 4th day, Evelyn flew to New York to meet the acquiring company's board in person. Aaron stayed in Chicago, managing her schedule and fielding dozens of calls from anxious hospital administrators. The uncertainty gnawed at him. Clara noticed his restlessness and handed him one of her drawings, a picture of 3 stick figures holding hands beneath 2 butterflies with halos. Clara. This means we are still together, no matter what. Her words steadied him. Late Friday evening, Evelyn returned. She walked straight into Aaron's office, closed the door, and exhaled deeply. Evelyn. It is done. Not only did they keep the program, but they are expanding it. 50% more funding. Relief washed over Aaron. For the first time in days, Evelyn's shoulders relaxed. They sat in silence for a moment, letting the weight of the week dissolve. But Evelyn had one more surprise. Evelyn. Next month's board meeting. I am changing the agenda. We are going to talk about the foundation first, not profits. And that was exactly what happened. The following month, in the sleek boardroom high above the city, Evelyn stood at the head of the long table. Usually, these meetings began with revenue charts and market forecasts. This time, the lights dimmed and a slideshow appeared on the wall. Photographs of children helped by the foundation, smiling faces, hospital beds, families holding medicine bottles like precious treasures. Evelyn told the story of a little girl who gave away her teddy bear to comfort a scared boy. She told of a father who chose to knock on a door instead of walking away. She spoke about the night she realized that wealth meant nothing without purpose. She did not use names, but Aaron knew every word was about Clara and himself. The wise room was silent when she finished, and then, unexpectedly, applause filled the air. Even the most stoic board members looked moved. Afterward, Evelyn found Aaron in the hallway. Evelyn. You were the reason I remembered what mattered. I could not have done this without you. The moment was quiet but powerful, a confirmation that the partnership they had built was more than professional. That night, Aaron returned home to find Clara waiting with hot chocolate. She listened wide-eyed as he described the board meeting, her smile bright. Then she said, "Clara, see, Daddy? Helping people makes the world better." In that instant, Aaron realized something had shifted. Evelyn was no longer the woman he had found crying in the dark, and he was no longer the man who felt powerless to change his daughter's future. They had both become something stronger. But there was still one more chapter to their story. One that would show just how far they had come, and how love, in all its forms, could turn strangers into family. Spring arrived in Chicago with the scent of fresh rain and budding trees along the Riverwalk. By then, Aaron's work with Evelyn had settled into a steady rhythm. The Rose Clara Foundation had grown from a fledgling idea to a respected national nonprofit, and their office walls were covered with thank you letters and children's drawings mailed from across the country. At home, life felt warmer. Evelyn was now more than a frequent visitor. She had become part of their daily routine. Clara would run to the door when she heard Evelyn's knock, the smell of Evelyn's perfume mixing with the aroma of whatever dinner she carried in from a local restaurant. Evenings were filled with the soft clink of dishes, the shuffle of homework papers, and laughter that rolled easily through the apartment. By the second spring, Aaron and Evelyn's friendship had deepened into something more. They never rushed it, but over time, the bond built on shared grief and mutual respect grew into love. One quiet afternoon, with Clara sketching at the kitchen table, Aaron asked Evelyn to marry him. She said yes without hesitation. They chose a small ceremony in the city's botanical garden. The air smelled of roses and damp earth, and Clara stood proudly between them as their only witness. After the vows, Evelyn tucked a pink butterfly sticker into Clara's bouquet, the same kind Clara had once given her in the hospital. Years moved forward. Clara thrived in school, her health steady, her confidence blooming. She joined the science club, volunteered at the hospital on weekends, and often spoke about becoming a pediatric cardiologist. The foundation supported her ambitions, and Evelyn delighted in mentoring her just as much as she guided Aaron in his career. When Clara graduated high school with honors, they celebrated with a picnic in the same park, where they had released the butterfly-shaped balloons for Rose. The swings creaked in the warm summer breeze, and the smell of freshly cut grass hung in the air. Evelyn asked if they remembered their first visit there. Aaron smiled and said he remembered everything: the exhaustion, the fear, and the way hope had quietly returned. Evelyn added that she once believed having money meant you had to build walls around your heart, but now she knew love was the real measure of wealth. Clara teased them for getting all sentimental again, then hugged them both. "Clara, you taught me the most important thing. It is not what you have, but who you love and who loves you back." Before she left for college, they made one more visit to the 42nd floor of Brooks and Hale Industries. The supply closet still had 2 faded butterfly stickers on the door. One pink, one yellow. Aaron ran his fingers over them, remembering the cold hallway, the muffled sobs, and the choice that had changed everything. Evelyn smiled softly. "Evelyn, this is where our family began." Aaron, "And where I learned that kindness can change everything." They stood there for a long moment, the quiet hum of the building around them. When Clara moved into her dorm, she took with her a framed photo of the 3 of them at the park, along with a notebook filled with sketches of butterflies. She told them it was her reminder that even the smallest acts of care could grow into something extraordinary. The years that followed only deepened their sense of purpose. The Rose Clara Foundation expanded to all 50 states, providing critical medicine for tens of thousands of children. Evelyn was invited to speak at conferences and universities, but she always began her speeches with the same line: "Evelyn, I am here because someone once refused to walk away from a stranger in pain." At home, their life was simple. Weeknights were for shared meals, weekend mornings for coffee, and long walks by the river. Sometimes they would pass the hospital and see a child running in the playground outside, healthy and laughing, and they would glance at each other with the unspoken knowledge that they had helped make it possible. Aaron often thought about the man he used to be, the one pushing a cleaning cart through silent hallways, feeling powerless. That man had found his strength not in money or status, but in the decision to listen, to care, to stay. Evelyn thought about the woman who had once hidden in a supply closet, too proud and too broken to let anyone in. That woman had been replaced by someone who knew that vulnerability was not weakness, but the doorway to connection. And Clara, now a young woman in medical school, thought about the sick little girl she used to be. She carried her parents' lessons into every patient interaction. That medicine was about healing hearts as well as bodies. One summer evening, years after that first meeting, the 3 of them sat in the park again. The air was warm, and the golden light of sunset turned the grass a deep green. Clara had just finished her first year of medical school, and she handed Evelyn a small gift, a silver pendant shaped like 2 butterflies. "Clara, so you always remember the night you and Dad chose to help each other." Evelyn clasped it around her neck, tears glistening in her eyes. Aaron put his arm around them both, feeling the steady, quiet joy of a life rebuilt. In a world that often rushes past pain, their story was proof that stopping to care could change everything. They had found each other in darkness and chosen day after day to be each other's light. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, please share it and leave your thoughts in the comments below.